I'm Major Mike Hall, Air Commander in the 174th TAC Fighter Wing, and during the exercise I'll be Director of Air Operations. The purpose of this tape is to familiarize you as air crews and operators with exercise rules of engagement and procedures, thereby allowing you to participate safely and effectively. Sentry Castle 81 is the outgrowth of several years of increasingly close cooperation between Air and Army units utilizing Fort Drum for summer training. This year's exercise expands to provide integrated command and control of air and ground elements, much in the manner of a JCS exercise. In fact, Sentry Castle 81 is closely modeled after the winter exercise Empire Glacier, in which many of you participated, but with greater emphasis on realistic employment than was possible during that exercise. Reviewing the list of exercise participants, you can be broken into two groups. One group routinely operates in upstate New York, and the other group is new to this environment. For those of you who operate routinely in New York, you'll need to pay particular attention to the tape because in some cases, exercise procedures differ significantly from those you're used to on a daily basis. And for those of you who are new to New York, of course you'll need to pay attention to the tape to get the information you need to operate here during the exercise. Information on this tape is extracted from two sources, the Sentry Castle Operations Order and the Pilot Controller Handbook, both of which are available for your review at home station. During the rest of the tape, two subjects will be covered: airspace management and procedures and fact fighter operations. To review airspace management and procedures, Lieutenant Colonel Jack Iannuzzi, Commander of the 152nd Tactical Control Group. Jack?
Thank you, Major Hall. Gentlemen, in the next few minutes, we're going to talk about our IFSIF procedures during the exercise, emergency and radio failure, exercise airspace procedures, rules of engagement, and a little bit about refueling. Before we get started, I would like to make a recommendation that you all use your Pilot Controller Handbook and follow along. This will give you a better understanding of the procedures of the exercise, and of course it will definitely help you when you are participating in the exercise. A little bit about our modes and squawks for the exercise. We'll be squawking Mode 3, computer assigned squawks from the FAA Center. The FACP military radar units participating in the exercise have the authority to change these squawks along with FAA. So if a change is required, please respond as immediately as possible in the course of your flight. Emergencies. If you have an aircraft emergency, we'll use the standard 7700 squawk, and if you have a radio failure, we'll use the standard 7600 squawk. If you have an emergency outside the airspace, contact the FAA agency for assistance in RTB. If you have an emergency within the exercise airspace, contact the FACP controlling you at the time for assistance in RTB. One additional comment: for those aircraft that will be participating with the SAM simulators, we are now programmed to use Mode 1 during those missions. Pay strict attention to your ATO remarks section, which will have detailed information for these particular missions. Now let's talk about airspace. The exercise assigned airspace for Sentry Castle 81 is divided between two FAA centers. As we look on the map here, down along the eastern edge of our 5203 is the division line between Cleveland and Boston Center. Cleveland Center being to the west, Boston Center being to the east. Now let's review the airspace in the Cleveland Center area. Ontario Alpha is our high altitude and will be basically used for air defense missions. The airspace is from 26 to 60,000. Our 5203 area, which will be utilized for refueling at 15 and 16,000, our jammer, which will be orbiting at 19,000, and low-level air defense missions under 10,000. This airspace is from 0 to 60,000. Over to the east, we have the Ontario East, Ontario North, and the Mach 1 area, which runs along the Canadian border across New York State, like so. This is also going to be used for air defense from 31 to 60,000. Within inside the airspace are low-level areas, the Falcon MOA. This MOA will be from 6,000 to 17,999. Superimposed on top of that with the same boundaries will be the RUM area from 18,000 to 60,000. Within the airspace is R-5201, the Fort Drum Range, where all the close air support missions will take place. Now, to give you a better understanding of why we designed our entry and exit routes as we did, I'll give you just a brief scenario of what has taken place in the ground war. The FIBA for the exercise basically runs in a southeasterly direction. To the south are the AF-4 forces, or the friendly people, and to the north is the opposition forces. These are the bad guys. Also, we'll have two FACPs participating in the exercise. One located on Fort Drum, approximately 2 miles east of Wheeler Sac, and they will be responsible for the R-5201 range, the MOA and RUM area, and also the high area Mach 1. The second will be located 10 miles south of Fort Drum on Dry Hill, Watertown Air Force Station. Their responsibility will be all the airspace in the Cleveland area, which we previously shown you, and in addition, both units have the capability of backing each other up. We have designed into the exercise play 3 entry routes: X-ray, Yankee, and Whiskey, with one common exit route coming out of the southeast corner of R-5201. X-ray, the northern route, is designed for op air. The other routes are designed for F-4 forces. Now let's talk about op air. The Navy aircraft will be stationed up at Plattsburgh during the course of the exercise, along with the RF-4s and the Army Mohawks. You have a design route from Plattsburgh into the exercise airspace. You'll be handed off from FAA to the MRU, the Military Radar Unit, to Point X-ray, which is on the 2-3 radio off of Messina 35 DME. One vector to this point, and the range being clear, you'll be turned over to the FAC for your briefing. If for some reason the range is tied up, you'll be vectored down the 230 radio to the 50 DME with a standard rate left turn, back to the north, and when the range becomes clear, you'll intercept the 230 radio and then down the tube into the range. After you've completed your mission, you'll exit the southeast corner, intercepting the Watertown 100, left turn climbing to 17,000, and RTBing. The RF-4s will follow the same procedures as just described. The Army Mohawk aircraft will come directly into X-ray, and since they're not working with the FAC, directly down into the range. Same exit procedures will apply. Now let's go to Point Yankee. Point Yankee was designed for the A-10s out of Barnes & Bradley. You'll be coming in at 15,000 to Point Yankee. At that point, you'll be turned over to the FAC for your briefing and waiting on clearance to go into the range. The range being clear, you'll be coming down the Watertown 095 with a right turn into the range for your mission. You'll use the same exit procedures when your mission is completed, out the southeast corner, climb into 17,000 on a left turn, contacting the MRU. The MRU will then direct you into the orbit to our refueling corridor for your post-refueling mission. You'll leave the orbit on a 265 heading, down the refueling corridor, over in the R5203 for your tanker hookup. When you completed refueling, you will RTB. One additional comment for all the aircraft coming out of Yankee into the range, due to the high terrain features through this area, you will have to maintain 3,500 MSL altitude. As we get closer to the range, you'll be able to be let down to a lower altitude as directed by the minimum altitude vectoring charts. Pay close attention to your control agency. This applies only during IMC conditions. In VMC conditions, no problem. Point Whiskey. Point Whiskey is part of the standard AD11 route used by the A-10s out of Syracuse. They will follow that route to go to the range, up to Point Whiskey, then into the range, completing their mission. Same exit procedures previously described, contacting the MRU, vectoring down the refueling corridor in the R5203 for your refueling and RTB. For the A7s out of Pittsburgh, you have a route designed to intersect the AD11 route at the Syracuse 30 DME, taking you to Whiskey, into the range. On completion of your mission, you will also exit the southeast corner, left turn climbing to 17,000, contacting the MRU, and you'll be directed over for your post-refueling mission. On completion of your mission, you will RTB. The A7s out of Alpena, Michigan, have a route designed taking you directly into the R5203 area. You will do pre-strike mission refueling, and upon your completion of your refueling mission, will be radar vectored to the 30 DME off of Syracuse, left turn to Whiskey, into the range for your mission, exit, climb into 17,000 on left turn, contacting the MRU, and then RTB. In addition to those entry and exit points, we have designed in the exercise airspace some orbiting points for the ABCCC and the HC-130 refueling. ABCCC will be orbiting between 19 and 22,000 as directed by the MRU, operating off the 200 Messina radio between the 40 and 60 DME. You'll be under radar control at all times. The HC-130 refueling mission will be operating off the Watertown 090 from the 40 to the 65 DME. And your refueling missions will be from 5,000 and below. Keep in mind that that is strictly a VFR operation. As you get down into the 3,000, 2,500 altitude ceilings, radar coverage may be intermittent. The radar units have been instructed to give you all stranger calls, but there are a lot of private aircraft flying in this area, so keep your eyes open. Now that covers our close air portion of the exercise. I'd like to now touch a little bit on interdiction. Interdiction is pre-planned for the A-10s out of Syracuse only. We have designed a route off the Syracuse TACAN 06094, what brings you into Point Yankee. Point Yankee will be the entry and exit point for the entire exercise. You'll be coming in at 9,000 feet, receive your target briefing, and given bearing range to the target. You go out, complete your mission. When you are finished, you will climb to 9,000, contact the MRU for vectors to Yankee and RTP. Now this 9,000 is important because there's other aircraft working above you, so you must maintain that altitude during the interdiction portion. In addition to pre-planned interdiction, all close air support missions will have a backup interdiction mission And if we run into some problem here on the range or weather prevents us from going in, you will be diverted from either X-ray, Yankee, or Whiskey. Or quite possibly you may be diverted because the F4 commander feels it's necessary to hit some interdiction targets. In that case, you will be notified when you reach any three of these entry points by your FACP. They will give you your instructions, target information, and bearing and range to the targets. The targets are located in this general area. Upon completion of your mission, interdiction rule applies. You climb to 9,000 feet, contact the MRU, vector you to Point Yankee, and you'll RTB to your respective stations. Gentlemen, we have covered the mechanical aspects of airspace and the procedures required for Sentry Castle 81. I'd like to now go over the general rules of the exercise with you. Only preferred routes designated for Sentry Castle 81 are authorized to and from the exercise airspace. Only one close air support mission will be allowed on the range at any one time. Aircraft will hold at designated entry points, X-ray, Yankee, Whiskey, as directed by the MRU, and released only when the range is clear. Strict adherence to the MRU's instructions is paramount. We've allocated 20 minutes for each mission, so you can see that your TOTs are very important. Keep in mind that your mission may be terminated at any time by the FAC or MRU in order to meet these limitations. Sentry Castle 81 will be the first entry in the remarks section of your DD-175s. For your air defense aircraft and air defense missions, the control agency, the FACPs, will follow your airborne orders as they normally do during an air defense mission. DACT is prohibited in the exercise. I'd like to talk a little bit about our coordination altitudes, and I'd like to give you a formula, 325, 325. Helicopters and Army fixed-wing aircraft not cleared above the coordination altitude will fly 300 feet AGL and below. We have a 200-foot buffer zone. F4 and op-air aircraft and others cleared by the FACP will fly 500 feet AGL and above. Again, a reminder, 200-foot buffer zone, 325. I've been asked by the F4 commander to make this statement. Any pilot violating this coordinated altitude will have to personally answer to him. Weather minimums for the exercise, 25 and 5, except for those aircraft coming out of Point Yankee, which was explained to you earlier in this tape. You will hold at 3,500 during IMC conditions. Intercept attacks must have at least 5 nautical mile flight visibility. Participating air crews will not fly through overcast or within 2,000 feet of clouds during intercepts. In respect to air-to-air intercepts, we will adhere strictly to ADTAC Manual 55-200 and abide by those rules and regulations. Refueling procedures. Couple highlights. Tanker altitude will be specified in the ATO. Refueling will be conducted only under VFR conditions. Minimum in-flight visibility 5 nautical miles. Minimum vector separation between tanker and receiver will be 2,000 feet until receivers are under tanker clearance and control. The tanker, receivers, and MRU will be on a common frequency during the rendezvous. And one quick reminder for the HC-130 refueling, remember it's VFR, there's civilian aircraft under there, keep your eyes open. Gentlemen, we have covered the highlights of your pilot controller handbook. It would take too long to go through each item by detail. I recommend strongly you read it, learn it, and study it. Know it as well as your name. It's your Bible to a successful, safe, and rewarding participation in Sentry Castle 81. And now I would like to introduce you to Major Tom McGwire, Operations Officer for the 105th Attack Air Support Group, and he will talk to you about FAC fighter operations.
Thank you, Jack. Gentlemen, I'd like to speak with you right now about that final portion of your involvement with Sentry Castle, and that's the FAC fighter relationship and the various briefings. The first item I'd like to talk about is the actual brief format. It'll be the standard high-threat comm jam format that you've been using for several years. However, since we have some allied services, sister services playing with us, I'd like to go over the format in a little bit of detail just for a quick review. Item number 1 will be the IP to be utilized by the fighters. These will be codified and passed to you in the frag so you're aware of them before you depart your home station. For example, the FAC could come up with Romeo 8. The next item is heading from the IP to the target. As to the actual target, it is not concerning itself with any type of offset. The heading will be computed and passed in magnetic degrees. Distance is the third item, as distance from the IP, again, to the target. We'll be computing that and sending that to you in nautical miles. The fourth item, probably the most important in some ways, obviously, is target description and the target elevation. A good example of a typical target description would be 10 tanks moving south. A short pause, and then we'd come across, for example, with 750 feet. Item number 5 is restrictions. Given the case-by-case situation as the targets are developing, we will have to compute and plan for enemy threats on the ground and friendly locations of troops. You might receive a restriction such as run in from the northeast. Item 6 is the last required briefing item, and it's clearance and abort procedures. You'll be told whether you are hot or cold when you leave the IP. If the FAC instructs you as hot, you in fact are hot to deliver your ordnance when the time is appropriate. If you are cold, then you'll receive final clearance as you get closer to the target, and it could be as late as when you're actually in the POP or in maneuvering for final approach for your ordnance delivery, so that we can ascertain that you are not flying into a friendly or aiming your ordnance at a friendly position. A final strike frequency may be passed, and I say may in the fact that's briefing you on the strike frequency, if he is the same FAC, so you work you on the final portion of your strike, the frequency will probably be the same. However, if he's handing you off to another FAC who is working as the forward FAC, they could in fact give you an additional frequency to go to. We like to minimize the frequency changes so as to avoid confusion. However, the opportunity to do so is not always there. A typical brief for item number 6 would be hot on blue. And if there was another FAC, his call sign would also be passed. Item 6 also includes your abort procedures. In your daily frag that you'll be looking at back at your intel shots prior to leaving, you'll see a series of authentication tables listed in the frag. For example, Foxtrot uniform equates to Delta. When we come to the abort portion of the briefing, the FAC will say, abort Foxtrot uniform. Looking at your knee board, you come up with Delta as the abort word. Anytime from departing the IP to the actual delivering of the ordnance, you hear the word Delta, that is the abort. However, being that we are in a benefit and proper that you go ahead and authenticate that abort word if the opportunity and the time permit. Again, you have the same series of authenticators on your knee board, on your mission data card that the FAC in the field has. If you are suspicious of the abort word or the time permits, challenge the FAC with your own authenticator. If he comes back with the appropriate response, obviously the abort is a valid one. If not, you're cleared to press. The last two items of the brief format are target coordinates and threat update. The FAC will be passing the target coordinates to you if, in fact, it is of a viable nature. If it is a comm jam environment where we will not be able to talk with you very, very well or at any length, or if it's a battlefield air interdiction type target where we will not really have visual on you, we will be passing you the target coordinates in UTMs for you to plot and to compute. The final item would be threat update. Any artillery activities, JAT activities, or enemy ground threat that's been imposed into the situation that you're not aware of since you left your squadron, we'll be briefing to you. During the course of the briefing, if you encounter, or the FAC encounters, or the FACP encounters, if any agency encounters jamming of such intensity that you cannot bleed through or that the briefing is being degraded, I will now talk about chattermark procedures to counteract that. In the frag, in the same frag that you got your mission data off of, there will also be a chattermark code word of the day. For example, a given day code word would be Beagle. If you, the FAC, or the FACP desire to chattermark, simply come across with the word Beagle. Do not preface Beagle with the word chattermark. In other words, you would just say Beagle. At that point, all agencies would step to the next frequency and sequence on the frag. You would go to the next frequency and sequence. I'd like to repeat that. You would wait 30 seconds on that frequency to attempt to reestablish contact with the other agency that you were working with. If no contact is reestablished within 30 seconds, all agencies will return to the fragged clear common frequency for that net. In this case, we're talking about UHF. We'll go back to the clear common frequency to only coordinate again a strike frequency to go to. No strike information will be passed over the clear frequency. The final item, BDA. BDA has always been a problem during joint training level type exercises. Sometimes it is not timely, sometimes it is not accurate. The controllers in this exercise have decided that they will compute the BDA for us and for you. The ASOC, another squadron from my group, will notify the controllers as early as possible as to the target location and mission number of the strike aircraft. Controllers on the ground, neutral controllers on the ground, working for higher headquarters, will position themselves to evaluate your pass on target and your ordnance delivery. That information, subsequent to the pass or passes, will be sent back to higher headquarters for computation and calculations. The BDA will then come down channel, downstream to both the FAC and the Army commander in the field, and back to your squadron intel shops. To summarize, I would like just to run through very briefly a typical strike brief format. You've just checked in with the FAC. You're on the strike freak. He or you have initiated an authentication of each other. And the briefing would go as follows. Romeo 8, 330 degrees, 10.5. 10 tanks moving south, 750 feet. Attack from the northeast, hot, on blue. Abort, Foxtrot uniform. Quad 23, 2 clicks northwest of target. Friendlies, 700 meters southeast of target. The FAC will not attempt to pass that entire briefing to you in the manner that I've just done, i.e. one lengthy briefing. It will be spaced to counteract any comm jamming problems. It will be short, i.e. 2 items at a time perhaps. We will not be prefacing each item with the word item 1, item 2, etc. It'll just, of course, at any time that lead or 2 does not have a clear picture, come back to the FAC for clarification. And finally, if the FAC desires that you go zipper, he will instruct you to zipper and request that you acknowledge it by zippering on the net. Thank you very much. I look forward to a productive, and well-run exercise. Thank you. Now to wrap up, I'd like to reintroduce Major Mike Hall with some closing comments.
Thanks, Tom. The success of Sentry Castle 81 air operations depends on your knowledge and compliance with the procedures and rules of engagement that have been briefed on this tape. It is essential that exercise rules be complied with. Failure to do so will jeopardize training in upstate New York long after Sentry Castle is over. If you are informed and use good judgment, Sentry Castle 81 will achieve its potential as an excellent, realistic training exercise. Remember, you can only tie the record for flying low. Thank you.